Statistical mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Welcome to everyone. Welcome followers, welcome supporters, welcome Bitcoiners, welcome traders, welcome haters, all of you. Welcome. All right, welcome to another live session. I actually thought I was live earlier, and just in case I wasn't live earlier, I did a poll the other day right here that asked the question, which version of a live talk with you did you prefer? And I believe that the results of that poll reveal the fact that most of you, the majority of you, did prefer the audio only version. And I understand that it's more convenient for you. It's not as convenient for me in a way, in some cases, and I'll explain that in just a second, but it is more convenient for you because you don't have to worry about whether you're missing something on the video format. The video format might be a bit distracting. So you might be looking at something in my background or looking at some flaw in my face or whatever. And you should be listening to the message more than all of that. So I get it. You could be on the treadmill at the gym doing a workout, and while just listening to the audio keeps you a little bit more focused. I get that. And I experience the same thing. But there are times when I speak to you and it is far more instructive if I'm able to show you a visual image of what I'm talking about. And sometimes these visual aids, such as a meme or even something as detailed as a technical chart, can drive home some of the points that I am forced to have you maybe imagine if you're catching this in all audio form. So I hope you don't mind the fact that I am going to sort of mix some of these live sessions up with video and audio only. So I'm not going to abandon either one of them, but I will do more audio. But when I feel that I'm talking about a topic that requires a video image of some sort or an image of some sort, I'm going to do it live. And today is one of those sessions. Now, um, the other thing that I'm really not overly excited about this is that I don't really see I don't see any of your comments. So I don't know where to get your comments, guys, and I apologize about that. I just don't know where to get them. So I don't see them on the page here, and maybe I'll figure that out at one particular point. But what I do see is I see that there are 58 people logged into here, and at least that's what this is showing here. See that? Boom. Yeah. All right, cool. Cool. All right, so listen, I wanted to talk, and I'm not going to keep you long. I promise you on this one, I'm not going to keep you long. And because of that, I might have to do a follow-up on this in audio form only. But I wanted to get some of these images out of the way. Now, the topic that I wanted to touch upon today was the fact that I I believe today that the higher Bitcoin's price from a US dollar perspective, right? The higher the value of Bitcoin, the more reason to actually pile into it, the more reason to convert your fiat denominated unit into the stronger money, into the winning item. And the reason that I believe today, I did not believe this in the past. I believe it today because I believe it's connected to my deeper or deepening understanding of Bitcoin and its value proposition to the world, right? So I believe today that as the price goes higher, it is a resounding confirmation that the conversion into it is the proper thing to do. And this is not intuitive for me because I've been a financial market player my entire life, since professionally since 1986. And in my world, that is counterintuitive. In my world, you actually are a more aggressive buyer on the downside. And while that still might be the case with Bitcoin, I believe that actually the incentive to want to convert your fiat unit into Bitcoin becomes more powerful and greater as the price goes up. Why? Because Bitcoin is the antithesis of fiat currencies. It is the exact mirror opposite of it. And so Bitcoin's rise in value is demonstrating in the most direct and the most pure way possible that the monetary unit that you're calling money, your fiat currency unit, the dollar, the yen, the euro, the peso, whatever it is, that is actually declining in value. You see, the rise in Bitcoin is the failure of your monetary unit. It's not, it's the sign that you should actually be shoveling more of this failing monetary unit that you're calling money into the stronger thing, because the rise in Bitcoin is the proof that your unit is failing more. So if Bitcoin goes to a new all-time high, it means the failure in your unit is at a new time, all-time new low. Think about that. It's literally the mirror opposite. Do you understand this? It is, they're not playing off of each other. They are mirror opposites of each other. So if the Bitcoin US dollar denominated price moves to an all-time high, your dollars priced in Bitcoin have just moved to an all-time new low. So one is weak and one is strong. Why would you slow down at that point to hold more of the new all-time low item, instead of saying, wow, I've got even more confirmation that my unit, my monetary unit called the US dollar, is getting destroyed, being weakened, being debased on me more, losing more purchasing power. So you should actually start shoveling harder. All right. We are compelled to work for someone else's created money. This is the thing that if I could just get one thing across to the vast majority of people that I speak here to here, it would be this. Understand that we are mired in a form of financial slavery, a more sophisticated a more sophisticated form of slavery than has ever existed throughout the ages. Slavery has been with us for the most part throughout the entire human experience, but slavery, along with everything else, has evolved. And we are mired in a form of slavery that is more sublime than all of the others. We are mired and trapped in a form of slavery that is more ubiquitous than any other form of slavery that ever existed before us. Because the forms of slavery prior to the one that we find ourselves in today were primarily directed towards certain classes of people, whether the class was based on color, whether it was based on chaste, whether it based on your socioeconomic level, whether it was based on your religion, but it was always sort of specifically targeted. Do you understand? And slavery went to a whole brand new level with fiat, because instead of narrowing a slavery, which is ultimate control of the human being, right? And their time and the fruits of their labor. A slave is literally one that has no control over their time, which means they have no control over their life. So 100% of their time, or 100% of their life, because time is the stuff that life is made up of, right? So 100% of their time belongs to someone else, and all of the fruits of their labor using that time belongs to someone else. That is the strict form of pure slavery. But what's important to understand is that that form of slavery was historically targeted to small groups of people, a religion, a color, a caste, a socioeconomic level. You understand? A gender. So this form of slavery has moved to the point where it is no longer targeted with a dart to one specific group. It is now control over every human being. And in order to do it, in order to spread this form of slavery across the entire human race, you have to bring it down. So you can't have 100%, but you can have 50 or 60%. So you can bring it down to now I control 50% of your time. Now that, because it's not 100, I can now drop it to 50% and spread it across a larger number of people because they'll accept 50. Everyone's not going to accept 100, but if I drop it, more people will accept 50. And in addition to that, so I want you to think about this form of slavery that went from specific groups to everyone. We are born on a plantation, right? By no choice of our own. And it's a modern day plantation. All right. Instead of the name of the owner of the plantation, Mr. Johnson's plantation, right? We call them countries today, right? So the plantations are countries. All right. It's the United States of America. It's Argentina. It's Venezuela. It's Turkey. These are all plantations. Each of these plantations, we're born on the plantation. They have an invisible gate around the plantation that requires permission to exit. So in every plantation, you can't exit your plantation without permission from the plantation runners, right? Can you? First, you are stamped with a number, just like a slave in the old days used to be branded to let everyone know this slave is my slave. You are branded too. In America, we're branded with a social security number. In Colombia, it's here with a cedula, or whatever they call it. You know what I'm saying? We're all branded with a number on this plantation. That's the first thing. And then if we want to branch off outside of the gates of our own foundation, we need permission in the form of a passport. Boom. All right, you've got permission to leave. Now, every other plantation know that this is my slave. Do you understand this? This is mine. All right. So you have to show this stamp of yours proving that I'm from the United States plantation. All right. And you need permission, even with that, to enter other plantations who stamp yours and say, okay, I will allow this slave from this plantation to enter my plantation, but only for a little while, right? And if you want to stay longer, you need permission from me because this is my plantation. So you think about this. It's just a more subtle form of controlling all human beings. Now, we're born on these plantations. We're stamped with a number. We have to seek permission to leave the outer gates of this plantation. All right. But in order to live in this plantation, we must give back to the plantation. And so we have the ability to work and live our lives on the plantation. But here are some of the subtle differences, right? From the old version of slavery and the new version of slavery. Let me just make sure I'm still live here. I want to be talking to myself. Am I still live here? I'm still live. All right, cool. I want to be talking to myself here. Okay, so in the old form of slavery, there was slavery. Even in the form of old slavery, there's an exchange, guys. All human experience does always involve an exchange, even 100% slavery. So, what was the exchange for a traditional form of slavery? It was basically, I give up 100% of my time to you. That's a slave. Someone else controls 100% of my time. All the fruits of my labor that comes from that time belongs to you too. Now, what do I get as a slave? Okay, I give you 100% of my time and I give you 100% of the fruits of the labor of that time. You, in exchange, as the slave master, as the plantation owner, you give me shelter, a home, or it might not be a great one, but I have shelter. You give me clothing. It might not be great designer clothing, but I'm clothed. And you give me food. It might be the scraps from your table, all right? The parts of the animals and things that you don't want, I might get, but I'm still fed. So I get clothing, I get shelter, and I get food. Low quality, but I still get it. That's the exchange in a 100% slave-based system. Well, in the more subtle slave-based system that we have, we're born on the plantation, just like slaves in the past. We're born by two slaves having a baby on plantation, right? The baby has no choice where they're born. We had no choice where we're born. The baby was branded, right, at a certain age to say, this is my slave. We're branded with a number. We can't leave the plantation without permission from master, right? Same thing. We live the same existences. But instead of 100% of our time today and all the fruits of our labor, it's brought down to about 40, 50% of your time you must give, not 100%. Now, and the rest is yours, okay? But here's the thing. 40%, I'm now a 40% slave. So I'm working on the plantation and I have to give back to the plantation 40%, 35, 40%, whatever your tax rate is, right? But you've got to give about 40% back, right? Maybe 50, as much as 50% on certain parts of the country. Okay. So I got to give this back to the plantation and I can keep the rest. But with the rest, I no longer get clothing, shelter, and food. I must take the rest and buy clothing, food, and shelter from the plantation. You see, in the first form of slavery, it was given to me. I gave 100%, but I got the food, the clothing, the shelter. Now I have to give back 40%. I keep 60%, but with the 60%, I've got to buy the clothing, the food, the shelter from the plantation. And what the plantation does is say, well, you're going to work for the plantation. I'm going to create a plantation money. All right. This is my creation. I'm going to draw fancy little pictures on it. I'm going to put a little bird. What bird should I put on this piece of paper? I like the eagle. All right, we'll put a little eagle on it. Put a little eagle on it. And on this piece of paper, I'm going to put a 20. On this piece of paper, I'm going to put a 100. No differences in the paper, right? I create the paper. I'm the plantation manager. I'm the plantation owner, the runner. I create my own plantation money. You have to go out, work on the plantation in exchange for my money that I created. Now, when I give it to you, here's the trick. I give you $100, one of the ones I painted $100 on, right? I give you one of these. Good. Congratulations. But now you have to give me back 40 of them. Ah, cool. Now you can keep 60 of them, but with the 60, now you need a house, you need a car, you need clothing, you need some food, right? I control all of those things too. So now you take the 60% and then you have to give it back to me for housing, clothing, food, transportation, da, 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 da. Now here's the trick. I am going, because I don't want you to leave, because I don't want you to, I want you working for the plantation harder every year. I don't want you working less every year. I want you working more every year. So how can I make my slaves on the plantation work more than they did last year for the same thing? You see, I'm going to give them the same thing, the same house, the same car, the same clothes, the same food. I'm going to give them the same life. But how do I incentivize them to work harder for the same food? Can I make them work harder, 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 harder until they die? Can I do that? Yeah. You know what? I'll just make sure every single year the things go up by 2%. So now you have to work 2% more. Said another way, I'm going to make sure that the piece of paper that I created for them drops in value by 2%. So that now the next year they have to work 2% more than they did last year for the very same thing. And then the next year is going to drop 2% too. And so if I do this subtly enough, if I do this ever so gradually, it won't be felt from year to year, but it will be felt from generation to generation. You see, the next generation will see that the prior generation had it better, but it'll be too late then. All I have to make sure is that you don't see it year to year. I have to make it subtle enough where you don't see it. Your children will see it. Your grandchildren will see it, but you won't see it. And I will make sure that you work on this plantation, and every year I'm going to squeeze more out of you. Do you understand? Every year by 2%, sometimes as much as 6%, 7%, 8%, but every year you will have to give me more for the very same thing. And if you tell me after you understand that how Bitcoin is not freedom, if you understand that, then you understand when I am constantly telling you that Bitcoin is freedom and that Bitcoin is tied to the slave money. Do you understand? And it's designed to be the opposite of it. So where we work for the slave money, we have no choice. We're born on the plantation, that we have to live by the plantation's rules. We have to. But we now have a choice to take a portion of the slave dollars and move them into freedom. And this money goes the opposite way of the slave money. So the slave money is designed to debase on you 2% or more. In Venezuela, it bases on you 100% at a time. In Argentina, 160% at a time. That's crazy. 140%, 120%. In Turkey, it's 80%, 70%. It's debased on you. The United States does it more subtly. And they have the wherewithal to do that. So they're all declining. They're all crashing. They're all airplanes that are crashing to the ground. It's just that some of them are kamikaze and going straight to the ground. Others are more gliding like the United States dollar, but they're all headed toward the ground. So they're losing value. But as the slave money is losing value, exponentially, the freedom money is growing in value. And it's not one for one. That's the so beautiful thing. That it's not like, okay, the US dollar is debased by $1. The US dollar loses 10% in purchasing power, but Bitcoin then rises 150% in purchasing power. It's not one for one. It's not like, okay, the US dollar loses 10% in purchasing power, Bitcoin gains 10% in purchasing power. So it stays equal. No, it's exponentially different. You understand? The dollar loses 10% in purchasing power, Bitcoin's up 400% in purchasing power. And that's what is its liberation. Bitcoin is liberation from this system. That if we just take a few of the slave dollars that are being debased on us, they're leaking our value, they're sucking our life away. And we just put a few of them into freedom money and keep it there. it will continue to go up exponentially in the opposite direction as the slave money goes down. And ultimately, when you do enough of that switch, it lifts you completely off the freaking plantation. You understand? It's a beautiful thing when you understand this. When you see it for what it is, it's like the curtain is lifted and um the matrix is revealed. But you've got to understand it from the money point of view. You know, I was I was brought up in a very religious home. My dad wasn't particularly religious, but my mother was, which pretty much meant that I was throughout my entire childhood, right? And guys, I lived in church so much, I mean every day for a certain period of time, especially in the summer times, that I thought that going home was vacation. Anyway, um I heard most of my childhood life this disdain, this message of disdain for money. And I'm so glad it never resonated with me. It never resonated with me. I never bought that, even as a little kid. Money is the root of all evil. Da, 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 da. Yeah. All I heard, I don't know if I know I'm dating myself. Do anybody remember the Peanuts? Charlie Brown, Linus, Lucy, Snoopy. All I heard, that they never heard their parents talk. It was all wah 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 wah. That's all I heard. Money is the wah wah. Money is the root of all evil. All I heard was wah 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 wah. I never bought into that, and I'm so glad I didn't, because what I've learned in my 43 years of playing the markets, 37 years professionally, right? Is that all this game is about? All the game that I played was basically trying to find the boat that leaked the least. And so all of the boats are sinking, just like all of the planes are crashing. So if I stick with that analogy, all the planes are crashing, but which one do I hop on that's crashing slower than the others? So equities right now are crashing slower. Oh, wait a minute. Now equities are crashing faster than bonds. Let me switch the bonds. Now bonds are well. Wait a minute. Now real estate's crashing less than bonds. Let me now flip to real estate. Let me flip to this sector. Let me flip to that. But they're all crashing. All the boats are sinking. So I hopped. Being a specialist in my field is just knowing how to identify which boat is sinking slower than all the others, but they're all sinking. Whereas that Bitcoin is the opposite. It's not only not sinking, it's exponentially rising in the exact opposite way that everything else is sinking. And that is its ultimate freedom. And so to get back to this point about me understanding money, that helped me really understand how the system is. It's just picking the boat that is leaking the least. And I got very good at that. And I was called an expert for that for decades. Just picking the boat that has the smallest leak and then skipping. And if that leak grew, skipping to another one. Um, so that gave me the ability to kind of look behind the curtain and see, oh, you're Oz. That's Oz? Really? It's just a bunch of leaky freaking boats. That's it. This is it. This is what I dedicate my life to. Boat hopping, right? That was one thing. The other thing was more philosophical in nature. These are the things that sort of helped me get Bitcoin. So my background helped me get it by saying, you know what? That's true. Every boat is leaking. Bitcoin is the only thing that doesn't leak. It is sealed, it has no leak. So that helped me get Bitcoin. The other thing that helped me get Bitcoin was more on the philosophical nature of time. I've always been an avid reader. My mother was an assistant librarian. So when I wasn't in church, I was in the library. What do you do in the library? You just read. So um, I sure remember just reading things on the philosophical questions of the ages. Who am I? That's the fundamental question. Know thyself. And am I my thoughts? Is thinking something I have, or is thinking who I am, and all of these things. And so I've always had this sort of philosophical bent to my approach toward life. And time was something that I spent an inordinate amount of time, no pun intended, on. Because when you understand that time is the stuff that life is made up of, you start to really start to pay a lot of attention to time, right? And so understanding time in all of its nuances made me look at money differently as an adult, because money is the monetary representation of your time. And if time is your life, then money is your life. So I remember all of the preachers that my mother paraded me in front of as a child, they had it wrong. That money is not the root of all evil. Money is your life. I give 40 hours a week to this man, to this company, to this institution, to this corporation. In exchange for that 40 hours, which represents my life, I gave up 40 hours of my life, not to mention the amount of time in preparing to, after I get up, to prepare to go to work, to transportation to work and back. All of that is time. I Time I can't ever get back, a portion of my life that I have given to someone else. It is not from me specifically. I've handed over this time to someone else. Now, in exchange, everything's in exchange. In exchange for that time, I receive a piece of paper from someone that represents the time I gave. What is time? My life. This paper represents my life. And so if you ever see someone careless with money, they toss it around, they get rid of it really fast, they squander it on stupid things. This is a person who will never have a good life, because they're squandering the very thing that life is made up of. That money that they're squandering is the actual representation of their life. Their life is the time they gave. And so money is the ultimate thing of importance, because it is the very life we gave. Now, in historically, the time we gave to life wasn't sufficient enough for all the needs. So there was scarcity in the world and everything, scarcity of calories. There was no surplus in calories a million years ago, right? 700,000 years ago. It was a scarcity of calories. We have an abundance of a lot of things today. So because we have moved to a stage in the human evolutionary process where humans experience more surplus than scarcity on average. I know that there are outliers in this sample, but for the most part, most human beings have excess. And because we've moved to the stage where more human beings have excess than scarcity, they must have some place to store their life. What's their life again? The time they gave. I give time to life. In exchange for the time I give, I receive money in return. This money represents the life I gave. Now, if I don't need to use all of the life I gave right now, I need to store my life, because if this dwindles, I'm dwindling my life away. And if I'm holding my stored time, my life, in a money that is leaking, my very life is being diminished. That's how important this shit is. Do you understand? Your very life is on the line. I don't give a goddamn, guys, whether you think it feels like I'm preaching to you. So be it. Heard some comments about that. Oh, this sounds like a sermon. I'm out. Well, be out then. because some of you need this sermon. Some of you need to be preached at. Stop looking at this thing like it's just another additional asset amongst many other assets. This is freaking freedom. This is freedom from the clown world, freedom from paper money created by a bunch of men that play tricks on us. This is more serious than most people think it is. And the people who get it now will be free. And the people who don't, you're going to stay a slave. Most people who get comfortable with imprisonment or slavery, they really don't want change. In a lot of cases, they get comfortable with the walls of their prison. You know what? In art class, I created this wonderful picture. Look at it on my prison wall. Isn't it beautiful? Got a little nice little tarpet or a little rug on the floor in their prison. Beautifully colored blanket on their little cot in the prison cell. That's really nice. Yeah, it's nice. They get comfortable. They start to paint the bars artistically on their prison cell. They're like, why do I want to leave here? Everything is good. Oliver, you're crazy. You're preaching. They get comfortable where they are. They don't want to see what's on the outside of their prison world. They don't even want to look. Oh, it's Oliver. It's a scam out there. I'm protected here. It's a scam outside of my prison cell. Oliver. That's how they are. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm silly like this. My traders know this. My kids say, Dad, you stopped growing up when you were 15 years old. I'm like, no, about 12. Colombian coffee. My point is that since Bitcoin is the exact opposite of the fiat money, the slave money, that is designed to make you work harder every year for the very same shit until you die. The system is not designed for you to stop producing for the plantation. Never. It's until you die. And if you want to leave, there's a huge cost to pay, exit tax. Even if you die, the system says we just lost a slave. And so we're going to tax you on death too. We're going to tax you if you want to leave this plantation for another. We're going to tax you if you want to even be here. If you want to purchase something here, we're going to tax you on your shelter. We're going to tax you upon exit. We're going to tax you on the food that you buy. We're going to tax you on the clothes that you buy too. We're going to tax you. And then we're going to debase the money on you so that every year, the things that you are being taxed for, you'll have to work an extra hour this year for the same thing. Oh, you want to eat this year? You're going to have to work another extra hour a week to eat the same thing. You want to live here? You're going to have to work another 2 hours to live here. And every single year until you die, you will give your life for this. What are you giving your life for again? My piece of paper. I create the rules. This is my plantation. This is my coupon. I drew the pictures on this thing and I control the supply. I tell you what its value. I create the price of it. And here comes Bitcoin with an option, an opt-out, a choice. Freedom, liberty. And so in secret, we can take a few of those cup bucks. Do you understand what I'm saying? A few of master's pieces of paper, and we can sock it away into freedom. Shh, quietly. It's a few. We don't have to tell anybody. Boom. A little bit of excess here. Boom. Switch. And after a certain point, Bitcoin said, okay, you ready? Are you ready? You say, am I ready? Yeah, are you ready? Let's see. Guess so. And it lifts you off the plantation, out of the matrix. You're like, oh my God. Oh my God. I see all the plantations and how they operate now. That's that plantation over there. That's the plantation I just got lifted from. And you see things from a completely different view. It totally changes your life. I'm sorry if this sounds like preaching. And so, one last time, I'm going to draw this all back to the main thing. The very rise in Bitcoin is the proof that it is winning over the slave system, and the slave system is deteriorating. The money that you're forced to work for is deteriorating. And the proof of that is the rise in Bitcoin. And what has Bitcoin been doing for the last 15 years? Rising. And some people say, well, Oliver, well, wait a minute. It has these big crashes. What is that? Is something wrong? No, that's Bitcoin's benevolence. Ever heard the story of Sojourner? I think I have her name right. Sojourner. She was a famous slave who got free and came back and decided, I'm going to come back for some of my family members. And came back and took some of her family members and got them free. And then she said, why stop at my family members? There are other slaves that want freedom too. And she came back again and got some of her friends, and then came back again and got some of their friends, and came back again and got some of their family members. And I think she made something like 300 plus trips from freedom back to this plantation, freedom back to the plantation, freedom back to the plantation. Bitcoin is Sojourner. Its pullbacks are its benevolence. Its pullbacks, or what you call crashes, are nothing more than Bitcoin coming back and saying, so you saw freedom, right? You saw it, you watched it from the sidelines. Now I'm coming back for you. Are you ready? And you bozos are saying, nah, I saw the freedom. It was exciting. But just because you've come back, I don't believe in it anymore. Bitcoin's like, what? All right, I guess he needs to see it again. Bitcoin goes to freedom again, all-time new highs again. That's freedom land. You're like, wow, that's exciting. And Bitcoin says, okay, I'm coming back. Comes back again. You call it a crash. Comes back to you, opens the door. You ready to get on the freedom train now? You saw it again, right? No. I don't like the way you came back. What do you mean you don't like the way I came back? You came back too fast. You came back too hard for me. Bitcoin's like, what? All right, I guess he needs to see it again. Goes to new highs again. You're like, wow, that's exciting. I wish I got on that freedom train. Bitcoin comes back again. You're like, you ready now? 3 times. I'm not sure, because plantation masters here are saying that, the winds are it's going to be storms out there or whatever, and there's, interest rate hikes, and you've never gotten free in an interest rate hike, and there's there's quantitative tightening and that. I don't think you can get free this time. They put an extra gate up because, all right, I guess he needs to see it again. All-time new highs. Bitcoin's pullbacks should be interpreted as its benevolence, as it's coming back for you to make you free. It's coming back for 2 people: the people who watched it and wish they were on it, and it comes back for them, but never at the same price. You see, there's a price for doubting. You always have to reach higher, but you'll get your opportunity. It also comes back for group number two, the people who did get on, but should have gotten on with all of their goods, all of their wares, not half-ass it. Just okay, I hope you've seen a little bit. I've come back. Now you get the chance to do what you should have done the last time more. And so it comes back and shows its benevolence for two types of people. And I don't know how many times people need this. In my world, in the financial world, the 10 years was always the gold standard. You understand this? So you were always recommended that, listen, if you're looking for one of the best mutual funds to put some of your wealth into, you want that mutual fund to have a 10-year record because they can get lucky with a 2-year record. They can get lucky with a 5-year record, but you can't fake a 10-year record. I was taught this from the very early days of my career. 10-year record is the gold standard. Hedge fund, what's their 10-year record? Not their 2-year record, not their 1-year record. They can get lucky with that, but you can't get lucky with 10 years, Oliver. Look at their 10-year record. Money manager, look at their 10-year record. An index, a market, anything. Make sure they're not a flash in the pan. Make sure that they can get lucky by a certain market environment. 10 years can't be faked, Oliver. Well, Bitcoin's giving you 15 freaking years. How many more years do you need? 100? All right, you're probably going to live about 85 years old, 88. Some of you might pass 90, 91, 92. But do you need more years than your life? Oh, okay, so your average life's going to be 85. You need 80 years? You've got 15 freaking years. It's way past the gold standard of 10 years in my industry. How many more? 25 more years? And another thing I'm sick and tired of. You know what else I'm sick and tired of? But Oliver, Bitcoin doesn't do this and it hasn't, and it doesn't do that. Thank God it doesn't. Thank God we're still early. Opportunity is not when something checks off all the boxes. It's late. I'm waiting for perfection, Oliver. That's not how you make how you make wealth. I'm waiting for Apple to become the biggest company in the world and check all the boxes off first. Dude, you missed it. You missed it. It's when it has the potential to check off all of these boxes. That's where the opportunity is. But Oliver, Bitcoin doesn't do this yet. Good. Oh, it doesn't scale. Good. It can't be used for good. We got a long way to go. You're sitting there waiting for perfection, waiting for all of these things to happen. Then that's when you think the opportunity starts. So, some of you guys crack me up. You crack me up. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you now. But just understand, if you walk away with nothing else, understand this, that Bitcoin is the exact mirror opposite. Remember I told you that I wanted to go over this, right? So take a look at this, guys. So this is the US dollar priced in Bitcoin. And so what this picture is showing you is what you are experiencing. I just want to make sure that I'm getting this. Give me a second here, guys. So what you're looking at is the US dollar priced in Bitcoin. And I just want you to understand that what this picture is showing you is that if you're holding dollars instead of Bitcoin, this is your life. You are storing this is your future. That's a good way to look at it. This is your future. This is what you are putting your future in. Instead of, this is the opposite picture. This is Bitcoin priced in US dollars, right? So which picture would you prefer? Where do you want to put your future? Where do you want to put the fruits of your labor that you don't need right now for food, clothing, shelter, and shoes and socks and whatever? Where do you want that? You want that in this, or you want that, and let me go back to it here. Or do you want that in this? And so when you begin to understand that the very decline of the dollar is the very rise of Bitcoin. They are literally mirror opposites, but not one to one. The dollar declines by 1 unit, Bitcoin rises by 25 units. And if you walk away with nothing else, walk away with that. And so this is where you should be storing your time, which is your life. It's already the most secure network in the world has ever known. So you've got security. It's already got a 15-year track record of securing it and increasing that value. And the last thing I will tell you is this. It's the lows, stupid. Let me just even do this to you. Look at me closely. Look at me closely. Look at me closely. All right. It's the lows, stupid. It's the lows. Watch this. All right, let me show you. You see, I need you focused on the lows. Low. 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 Everything else is noise. It's the lows, stupid. Every single thing else is noise. The next one's probably going to be up here somewhere. It's the lows, stupid. Stop getting distracted this way. Everyone's focused this way, from high to low. That's the trick. But you should be focused this way. It's low to low, low to low, low to low, low to low, and you won't get tricked. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? You got this? All right. I don't even know if I'm live here. I don't even know. I've been talking to myself. Let's see. 93 people, it says. All right, cool. I don't know. I wish I could see your comments. But anyway, guys, I'm glad you joined me here. Hour on the nose. Okay. All right, listen. I'm always reminding you of this, right? There could be so many things that you're doing with your time. There is one thing in life that is more valuable than your Bitcoin, and it is your time, because you can't ever get it back. We talked about that. And so today you gave me your time. You gave me something, your rarest commodity, that you can never get back, ever. Because of that, I made a promise a long time ago that anyone who gives me their time in this fashion, I'm going to do my best to give everything I have to give something of value that I believe can be utilized or useful, based on my opinion, for the rest of your lives. I hope I've done that here today. All right. And if not, I'll try to get better every single time. Every time. All right. You know what to do, guys. Ciao for now. Stack harder. Go to work. Go to work. Ciao. Coffee to you. Cheers. It's good eating.
My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!